Welcome to CVTV News. I'm Deidre Haven with my co-host David Kerr.
Evening.
Thank you for joining us. Well, there are penalties for fraudulent service dog claims. If you've been in the presence of a family member, friend, or acquaintance that uses a real service dog, you can spot a fake a mile away. A service animal means that any dog that's individually and specifically trained to do work or perform tasks for the benefit of an individual with a disability, including physical, sensory, psychiatric, intellectual, or other disabilities. Tasks performed can include, among other things, pulling a wheelchair, retrieving dropped items, alerting a person to a sound or oncoming medical emergency, reminding a person to take medication, or pressing an elevator button. Emotional support animals and comfort animals, or even therapy dogs, are not service animals under Title II and Title III of the ADA. Other species of animals, whether wild or domestic, trained or untrained, are not considered service animals either. The work or task performed by a service animal must be directly related to an individual's disability. It does not matter if the person has a note from a doctor that states that the person has a disability and needs to have an animal for emotional support. A doctor's letter does not turn an animal into a service animal. If you've never seen a service dog at work, these are the signs that it's the real thing. In public, service dogs should focus on their handler at all times. They should possess a stable and even temperament, walk nicely on a leash. They should remain quietly by their handler's side, lay quietly under the table or beside their handler's chair without getting up or moving around excessively. They should ignore distractions, be quiet at all times unless performing specific trained task work. They should appear professional, well-groomed, and well taken care of. The animal should keep his or her nose to himself or herself at all times. They should respond quickly and readily to the handler's comments, his commands, cues, or directions. The animal should be able to do pertinent task work to mitigate the handler's disability. Task work is not optional. If a dog doesn't perform task work, it's not a service dog. It's an emotional support animal, and it's not protected with the same rights as a service animal. There is federal protection for business owners who must ask non-service animals to leave, and now Virginia has legislation to prevent people from fraudulently claiming their pet is a service animal. Federal law states that businesses may exclude a service dog if the animal is out of control and the handler isn't doing anything about it, or if the service dog isn't housebroken and urinates or defecates inappropriately. At that point, if the service dog team, it can be asked to leave due to the dog's behavior. The business must provide the unaccompanied handler the opportunity to obtain goods and services. Only the dog can be excluded from the premises. Anyone who falsely claims their dog is a service dog can now be fined in Virginia. Fakery is so serious, Ms. Marty Van Dwyne, who uses a service dog herself, knew she had to act. Van Dwyne contacted Senator Bryce Reeves of Virginia's 17th District. She knew she could count on Reeves because he previously had working knowledge of the Americans with Disabilities Act, the law, and introduced legislation to expand the legal definition of service dogs to include those who help people with post-traumatic stress disorder. Reeves, who had heard some stories of problems from veterans and other constituents, agreed to introduce the bill alongside Delegate Mark Cole. After several drafts and changes in language, the bill was passed and, in case you missed it, enacted on July 1st. However, the actual enforcement of the law is unclear. It's currently against the law to ask for certification of a service animal. At a mere $250 fine, the law seems to be aimed at more of a deterrence than for punishment. All revenue gathered from finding owners of fake service dogs will go to the Literary Fund of Virginia.
That's a great story, Deirdre.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that.
Tell us about some other animals.
Well, that's right. It's staggering, but it's true. Nearly half the birds that were alive on our planet in 1970 aren't here anymore. Loss of habitat, pesticides, and herbicides and climate change have all taken their toll. It seems grim, and the first reaction for many of us is helplessness. What can we possibly do to stop such a global problem? The answer is more than you might think. There is something we can do. Actually, there's a lot of things we can do. The National Audubon Society recommends a number of things we can do individually. That's the point, things we can do personally. And they're surprisingly easy, and yes, you can have a long-term impact on our local bird population. So here it goes. First, buy a bird bath. Yes, that's easy, buy a bird bath. One of the challenges birds face in our suburban communities is finding any place to have a safe sip of water. Second, if you have a house cat, and I have 3, consider keeping them inside, or at least making sure they have a bell, or that they only go out at limited times. Cats, I'm afraid to say, are significant contributors to bird deaths. Third, sometimes in our desire for the perfect lawn, we forget about leaving a little bit of our property for the birds and wildlife. Some natural ground cover, a little brush, some natural wildflowers can help the birds a lot. And of course, if you can't do that, an old-fashioned birdhouse like the one I built with my father years ago is more than just cute. It gives our feathered friends a place to live. And speaking of that perfect lawn, national studies indicate that we suburbanites, and I'm one of them, way overuse pesticides and herbicides. We use far more of these chemicals than we need to, and that hurts birds and other insects, like bees. Also, it's not good for humans either. So think before you spray and limit what you spray. Finally, we lose a lot of birds to collisions with windows. So here's a thought, and add some window treatments, decals, or some kind of light from in the house to give the bird a warning. That way our feathered friends can steer clear. Finally, see if you can get your neighbors or community association interested in a few of these ideas. A community bird habitat is one idea, and so is just issuing some pointers, like the ones we just recited on the air, on bird-friendly things we can all be doing.
That is exciting. My dad used to build bird houses, so that's dear to my heart. Well, Monday, September 30th, 2019 marked the conclusion of our National Suicide Awareness and Prevention Month, but is a topic that we should not say has an expiration date.
Amen to that.
While research provided by AmericansHealthRankings.org shows that Caucasian, Alaskan, and Native Americans, as well as males, veterans, and those older than 85 years old, are more likely to commit suicide, it's a tragedy that affects all ages, genders, races, religions, and occupations. Most people know a friend, acquaintance, or a family member that acted on self-harm thoughts. I'm one who regrets not knowing the signs, finding the words, or reaching out. Know the signs. Suicidal tendencies look like uncontrolled anger or mood changes, changes in sleep, recklessness, withdrawal, giving away belongings, or putting affairs in order, feeling of hopelessness, anxiety, worthlessness, desperation, or being trapped. Substance abuse like increased drug and alcohol use, neglect of personal appearance, physical pain, loss of interest, and talking about death, suicide, or feeling like a burden. Find your words. It's hard to ask, are you thinking of ending your life? Listen, express concern, and reassure the person that living is the best option. Ask them if they have access to any lethal means like weapons or medications. Reach out. Create a safety plan. Help remove any weapons or medications from the vicinity. You may need to include another friend, family member, or law enforcement agent to assist. Provide the person that's considering self-harm with the resources you have and that you're prepared with. Call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline anytime. If you feel there's a situation that's critical, take the person to a nearby emergency room or walk-in psychiatric crisis clinic or call 911. Our own area has same-day access for mental health appointments at the Rappahannock Area Community Services Board. Reach out to the crisis text line by texting 741-741 or call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-TALK. The TALK acronym corresponds with the numbers 8255. Again, that's 800-273-8255.
Thank you very much, Victor. There's more to come, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
you.